sound like the farmer spends it.
Ken's letter to me spelled things out very well, what really happened and how it transformed.
That's what he tried to do.
Yeah. It kind of dismissed a lot of ignorance that was floating around out there.
Yeah.
Next time somebody tells you how much corn that you're burning up in energy, it ought to go for feed. You want to remember that over half of that is reused, reduced feed, or anything that can eat it. And that's very important, because it's not a one-time use. And the people that are using the distillers is doing a great job. I know several people are feeding cattle, and their cattle are bringing more money than normal, because the people have been buying them, have been keeping track of the way they dress and dress higher. And so they bring a little premium besides, but there's a lot of that feed goes through. It's just not throughout. It's not a waste.
Or go to the landfill.
And they're getting CD2 off of that. I mean, there's byproducts. You hear these people say, well, rigs, you know, they're going to cost them so much to each because, my God, they're turning it all into fuel. I don't think those people have the right to tell me as a farmer that I don't have a right to continue to find places and uses for my product. It's no different than a factory making a new product. You know, I have found a new way that I can get something out of my product, and I have a right to have it. We need to stand up for that.
And you take with the ethanol, gas being at $4 now, if you take ethanol out of the equation, now you got gas at $4.50 at least, if not higher. So that has kept the price of gasoline down somewhat.
And the distillers, like you said, have brought the price of, or kept the price of cattle somewhat lower. All had to be up. Because that is a little bit cheaper product.
But it's a reusable. I mean, we're using it over. We're taking byproducts off of that alcohol. It's doing.
And the CO2 is coming off in there, being captured, not left into the atmosphere.
And the dollars are all staying here.
Yeah. Even the end product, crap.
I'm going to take a little bit of it to Alaska.
Oh yeah.
I'm taking some of it to Alaska this year.
That's still counts. That's still a state.
Anybody wants to join me? There's still room on it. I believe it's the 17th of August. Got to get to Anchorage. Not too late to sign
You
up.
better start in. It's a long walk.
I've got several people. I've had you go around people fly. You're going to have to start quicker than me. You're going to have to start.
You have to talk to God. I've made God a problem.
If you start 2 or 3 days ahead of time, you'll be there in time. Start the tour. Yeah, there's several joining from this area. There's still room for more people.
I was 14 when I made that promise. It's just like yesterday. I can put in there say word for word what God and I talked about.
Anything else? No?
I just, we made a motion to spend a little money promoting agriculture, and I think that's a great thing. I think those of you that have not been to a WIN meeting and experienced some of the things said about agriculture and farmers really need to go and hear it firsthand. Because it's really become tiresome for me to go to a meeting and listen to people talk the way they do because they want to express their will on somebody else. And I really think you need to. We need to as a committee to hear it. Because we will understand how big a job we have ahead of us.
Palmyra, 26, Tuesday night.
Yep. John, as generations go on here, I think everybody's there's so many generations further removed from the farm. That's what it was 2 or 3 generations ago. Everybody had some type of roots back to the farm, and we don't have a lot of that now.
Well, when I hear other farmers referred to as a bunch of fat cats, that only care about themselves, that'll build their windmills and move away and things like that. It hurts, especially when you're a person like all of us that have given a lot to our communities. It's really a slap in the face.
Anything else?
You still advertising on them windmills?
As, what's that, Ralph? As,
Paint on them blades.
You can't do that. Absolutely.
Well, John, they're trying to make them yellow and green. Didn't go over very good.
They all have, they need to be colored inside. That's
I'll move on. Public comments? Anyone? Gentlemen?
Yeah, I do.
Mr. France?
Maybe just a clarification. I think Mr. Gould and Mr. Ehlert continue to refer to a group of people as antis. And I'd like them to define that for me if they could. 'Cause I'm not sure what that means, to be an anti. If they want to, maybe they don't want to, but I really would like to define that term, because it seems to be used quite a bit by both these gentlemen, and you know, what does that mean?
I would say the people who have been opposed to the wind by using untruthful statements in our area, that those are anti-people, and so I'm naturally going to group those people together as antis.
Okay.
Now, I will say that a lot of those people have publicly stated they're not opposed to wind if it was someplace else. But I don't take them off the list as being antis because they say that.
I would just like, again, the definition of, you know, what you call anti, because I think I'm maybe putting in that slot, and I'd like to address that. I know Mr. Ehlert wants to comment on that as well, because he used the term as well, anti, more than once.
You didn't ask for my perspective. I'd like
Well,
to get it here.
you didn't use the term, that's why I didn't
Okay,
ask
but
for
look,
it.
I guess I say an anti. I saw a display of antis last night, and the fact that when Mr. Goldberg spoke to the fact that if this type of ordinance is adopted, there would be no wind built anywhere in southern Michigan, and a bunch of people started hooting and hollering and cheering. Now, to me, I would classify those people as antis because they were happy to hear that no wind could be built in southern Michigan. So to me, the way I would determine that as being an anti-winder.
I would agree with that.
And I don't think I saw you there last night, Mr. France.
I was there.
Were you? Okay.
Yes. Well, and so, and.
That was very disturbing to me. And to me, that kind of just, that spoke volumes.
Well, it may have been disturbing. I can understand that from being the perspective of a farmer and an investor. But on the other hand, I think it might have shown a certain temperature of the community as well, which I think needs to be paid attention to. And myself, I support farming 100%. I support a farmer's right to do with what he wants to do on his land. I think where we kind of like cross paths, the antis, and I'm not an anti-wind person, is that the farmer seems to, the perception is in the community that the farmers can do anything they want in their land no matter how it affects their neighbors. And these same farmers, and I know quite a few of them quite well, and I think they're all good, decent, moral people, wouldn't do very minor things to offend their neighbors. You wouldn't start a big fire to burn a bunch of brush if the wind was blowing towards your open neighbor's window. I don't think any gentleman in this room would do that. Not one of you. I'm confident of that. I'm confident you're all, that you wouldn't do certain things to affect your neighbor's property line or whatever it may be. Yet the perception in that community is that the noise, the visuals, whatever other obstacles may come in the way of the wind, if we're opposed to those, and especially when it comes down to regulations, because a lot of the group last night that I heard, and a lot that I see, is that we want regulations, and we want them to be enforceable, and we want them to be uniform. And if you go to the Michigan Public Service Commission meetings, where they're in the process of redefining this whole issue at that level, you can see what a troublesome thing it is. And it's a complicated issue. And mention was made a study. There have been no studies done. And so, and I'm getting off track, but I really wanted to just make sure I understood that there are a lot of people who may be opposed to this project at a certain level, but at a certain level they're not. So the perception is, well, if you regulate to a certain level, then you're anti-wind. Well, that may be. You know, if a doctor tells you you've got a tumor, well, you know, it doesn't mean he's pro-cancer. It just means you might have cancer. Okay, and it's the same with wind. So Mr. Ehlert was offended by someone maybe taking a statement out of context or not quoting him correctly. I think people who are opposed to this industrial-sized wind complex, not necessarily anti-wind, they're just trying to protect their own piece of property, their own health, their own welfare, their own values. You know, there are a lot of things that could be done that could devalue your farmland. You know, and you certainly wouldn't want me to try to do that. And so, you know, my home's my biggest investment I have. You know, and you know, everybody tries to make the argument that this project won't devalue my home. I don't think anybody here can, with a good conscience, go lay down in bed tonight and say that, you know, if I come out my front yard and I can look 360 degrees and see 10, 12, 15 of these, that's not going to affect the value of my property. Okay? Now, if I was in Manhattan, probably wouldn't make a difference. But I live in Riga. And and I appreciate the answer from Mr. Gould. Mr. Ehlert, I don't know if you answer. I appreciate your, Mr. Swindeman. I just would not like to be referred to as an anti. I am a pro-responsible regulation. Whatever that comes out to be, that's the way it is. That's a democratic process. If we don't like that, then we work to change that, which I am involved in that. And so I am anti. I want to make sure I use my words correctly here. I am anti-conflict of interest involvement in projects that affect a large group of people in a community. And that's where I became involved, because that is readily apparent and openly stated in many of the forums that we talk about, the wind meetings, whether it be in Ogden or Riga. I can't speak to Palmyra yet. Okay, but in those two townships, you have sitting board members who have signed leases who are in the process of doing the regulation. That's wrong. So, thank you, gentlemen.
I will make a brief comment on just a couple things. I think is false, I guess, right off the bat. John made the statement that people are impugning farmers, and I think it's a mistake to characterize that all the farmers in the community support these projects. There are a number of farmers that have not signed and have significant concerns over the impact that these projects could have on their farmland in terms of tiling, land use, how the access roads affect their ability to farm their land productively, and a number of different things. So I think the characterization that John made that all farmers are being impugned, I think the concern comes in, though, where the statements are made that basically farmers need